Are you correcting your underexposed photos the right way? I see many people go about this in ways that, shall we say, are suboptimum. So in this video, I'm going to share my approach to recovering this photo and bringing it back to life so it appears as I saw it when I was there with my own eyes. Let's get into it. I'm going to work in the develop raw section of Luminar Neo, but a lot of what exists inside here is also going to be found in other photo editors such as Lightroom and tools like that. Now, the first thing you want to do when you're working with raw photos is actually find a camera matching profile that's going to bring out the best in your photo. So we have a very high contrast photo here, so potentially a standard HDR profile could be the way to go. Camera neutral is also a really nice profile for bringing back a little bit more detail, but what you want to avoid is what often can look quite nice straight away. However, it's not the best way to start your photos is with a vivid or even a camera standard profile. You want to go for something more neutral. So in my case, I'm going to go for camera neutral and avoid just sticking with the basic Luminar default profile, or if you're in Adobe, there's the Adobe profile. Adobe standard here is also accessible, but neither of those are going to give you the same level of color accuracy that using a camera specific profile will. So that's our first step. And to assess the current exposure, we absolutely need to look at our histogram, which shows us the distribution of tonal range from on the far left, the blacks, all the way to the whites. And you can see that we have a heavy distribution on the left-hand side, showing how much we have in the way of shadow at the moment. So if we grab the exposure slider, I know, rocket science, right? And we start boosting this up, of course, we are going to recover a lot of that information, and now that's spread more through the midtones. But one thing that's concerning me with this particular photo is the brightness level in the sky. Now, what I like to do when I first open up most photos is actually just check the exposure through the entire range. So I'll actually boost the exposure all the way to +5 and then check out the detail in the shadows just to see what is recoverable in this file. From there, I'll take it the other way and see what's recoverable in the highlights. And usually what I would expect to see is an actual element of blue starting to show in the sky. And you can see a little hint of blue at the very top part, but below that, it's just going to gray. No matter how far I take that exposure down, we're not able to recover that blue. And that's a big problem. And I'm actually surprised because I actually bought the Nikon Z8 because it has such a good dynamic range. My old D850 had a very good dynamic range. And to be honest, if I shot this on my D850 with this darker exposure, I would actually be expecting to be able to recover the sky when I bring that exposure down. So yeah, I'm surprised and a little disappointed. But here we go. So because we know we're unable to recover the sky, it doesn't matter how much we're going to drop our highlights, we're not going to be able to bring that information back. You know, even if we combine that with dropping the exposure, dropping the white slider, that information just doesn't exist there. So I do have a technique for actually recovering that information, but at the moment we're not going to focus on that. We're going to focus on the rest of the photo and get that looking good, knowing full well that that highlight area of the sky is gone. So I'm diving into the exposure slider, which is absolutely what we should do next. But I do see some people start to try and boost up the shadows if they have a darker image. And yeah, for sure, you can do that and that's going to bring back more information, but look at how flat and washed out that is. The whole image starts to look more like an HDR photo than it does a normal photograph. So this was our original capture, and that is with that boost of the shadows. This is not what we want to do at all. What we want to do is start to recover the exposure to a point where we're starting to lift up that graph and the photo's looking brighter, yet still remaining photographic. And then if there are areas, like in the very darkest parts of the photo where you do want to see a little more information, that is where we just start to tease in a little bit of the shadow boost, not too much at all. In Luminar, it's a little different to Lightroom. You can go a little higher in Lightroom, but this is a very sensitive slider inside Luminar. So just be very mindful of that. I like to keep that quite low. Now let's move on to the white and black sliders. The white slider and the black slider, which can reintroduce contrast, as you see that I drop the blacks down. We're going to move that histogram back over to the left and re-establish a black point. But it comes with a serious warning. Don't do it this way. because as we move the black slider down, if you look at the histogram, it really starts to actually bunch up on the left. As I move that, it bunches up. It's like the software is pulling the brightness levels from the shadows and pulling them down towards black. And so, yes, we're getting a darker black area in the photo again, but it's done in a non-linear way. There's a much better way to do it. Let me show you how to do that. So we're going to do it in the curves, which is an alternative way to re-establish that black point. But you can see that as I move this over, we're redistributing the tonal range, but doing it in a much more authentic way. So let's see, before and after, we're starting to see this as a much more technically accurate process of this photo. The next thing we want to establish during our raw processing is making sure that the color temperature of the photo is accurate. Now, I would love to see this as a much warmer image, but during the raw develop stage is not the time to do it, particularly in Luminar Neo. We want to make sure that we're actually working with accurate color as our starting point, and then we can veer off into more creative editing later. And so if I flick back to the as shot, you can see that it does look very cool, very blue. We should be seeing a much warmer color temperature during this part of the evening. So I'm thinking somewhere around there, 7,000 looks pretty good to me. And then I also grab the tint slider and just tease that back and forth, eyeballing the photo all the time to try and find that accurate sweet spot. If you move the slider to a point where you've overdone it and you're like, well, where did this actually start from? What was the setting that the camera thought was the correct amount? You can just double click on these dots, and you can do that with most tools, and it will reset to the default amount. I'm going to boost this up just a little bit as well. And then the final thing I do with color is usually just introduce a little bit more saturation, more than you would potentially want in your final image, certainly not that much. But my point is this: if we add a little more saturation than we need, it's easy later through other tools such as the color tool to desaturate the photo and the photo still to look good. It's very hard to go the other way. Let's say we desaturated the photo and then we came to a new color tool and then we tried to reintroduce color saturation. It's going to be very hard to do that because there's such minimal color in the photo at the moment. We're not going to get very accurate color representation at this point doing it this way. And so that's why I prefer to oversaturate just ever so slightly in the beginning part. And I do that in the develop raw. When we're dealing with that raw data, that is when we have the most accurate version of every version of pixel in our photo. And so a little boost in saturation goes a long way. It's when we're working in develop raw that we also want to make sure that we have the optics of our camera fixed as best as possible. You can see that this is actually slightly unsharp at the moment, so we definitely will benefit from a bit of sharpening, but it's a bit of a balancing act because as you bring up sharpening, and let me go way over the top with this, hopefully you can see this on YouTube. Let me even go to 200%. As we add the sharpness and I take it away and add it back in, you can see not only are we sharpening the photo, but we're also accentuating the digital noise that exists. And so we can actually balance that out with a luminosity noise reduction slider. So I'm going to be really ridiculous with this. I'm pushing that all the way and the sharpness all the way. And then if we look at the before and the after, basically we're sharpening everything up, but then we're creating this awful plasticky texture to the actual photo itself. And so you need to balance these two very, very carefully indeed. Let me bring the luminosity noise reduction back down. And usually I find a sharpness setting somewhere around halfway is pretty good. And the radius around halfway is pretty good as well. I did miss my focus on this one. This was the first time I was using the Z8, and I obviously hadn't quite mastered the focus settings at this point. But we're going to do the best we can with the sharpening, and I'm going to go for something like that, and we're going to tickle in a little bit of noise reduction. We really don't need too much. In terms of the optics corrections, usually it's worth just turning on auto distortion corrections, and any pin cushioning or barrel distortion in your lens will be repaired. And Luminar is able to do that, or Lightroom, by reading the metadata of the file, knowing which camera it was shot on, knowing the lens that was attached to the camera, and then making appropriate corrections. If you have a lens that suffers from chromatic aberration, which usually appears around the edge of the frame, we can turn that auto fix chromatic aberrations on. To be honest, I don't see any on my Nikon at the moment. Really pleased with the optical quality of those lenses, but it doesn't hurt to turn those on. And now with those develop raw settings in place, we can toggle the before and the after, and you can see we've processed and corrected this underexposed photo before and after. However, there's still one thing that I would like to address, and that is the fact that the contrast isn't quite as punchy as I would like. So let's just take a quick look at that before we move on. So you saw that we moved the black point. We didn't touch the white point, but if you do feel that you need to brighten up your photo and don't have a pure white, you can do the same things we did with the black. Just move that point in and over and you will re-establish a white point in your photo. We don't need to do it here because, as we saw before, we are already blown out to that unrecoverable white in the sky. So all that's left to do now is work with the curve to actually add a bit more contrast. So by putting a point on the curve, we can actually just start to lift those midtones and give us a brighter value throughout the photo. Once we've established the midtone that we want, we can then come in to add a bit more contrast. If we put a point midway between the darkest pixels and that midpoint, if we lift it up, things get a bit mental there, but they do get brighter. If we bring it down, they get darker. And so by bringing this point down, we're creating what is known as an S-curve. It's a classic for editing your photos. Really, really useful. That S shape unlocks so much potential for working with contrast. If we want to get rid of a point, just double click on them in Luminar Neo. I don't like to be as aggressive as what I just showed you there. That was just for demonstration. But the key is if we just bring down the left-hand side a little bit, and then we can raise up the right-hand side to the point where we want to brighten those highlights. And in this case, I really don't feel like we need to take them very high at all. But a nice shape to the curve like that gives us a lovely element of added contrast. So before and after. But even after all this hard work recovering the underexposed photo, we weren't able to recover the sky. The detail just wasn't there in the photo to begin with. So in that case, what do you do? Well, that's what I'm going to show you in this video right here. And together we'll explore a really great technique that's going to be able to bring back a bit of color and information in the sky. I'll see you in that one. Bye-bye for now.